Wow, talk about a fiscal shock to the system. Turns out the PCs in Ontario have inherited a $15 billion deficit. But there are three surefire ideas that Premier Doug Ford can adopt to help restore fiscal normalcy. Premier Ford has called the unexpected $15 billion deficit he inherited from the Liberals as, quote, the biggest government scandal in a generation, end quote. Does this come as a surprise? I mean, if the McGuinty-Wynne Liberals ran a retail chain, it would be called Financial Scandals R Us. But enough whining. Now it's time to get down to business. And if the Ford PCs have political courage and testicular fortitude, here are three can't-miss ways to save some money. One, sell off the LCBO. Contrary to popular belief, the liquor corruption bureaucracy of Ontario is not a cash cow. Quite the opposite. Indeed, back in 2004, I wrote an eye-opening feature for the Financial Post entitled LCBO Profit, a Facade. With the help of a financial consultant, I combed through the LCBO's annual report for the previous fiscal year. During that year, the LCBO claimed to have paid out of its profits a dividend to the province of $975 million. But wait a minute, that dividend included the tax revenue the LCBO collected on behalf of the province. In other words, money the province would have normally collected from private sector retail liquor stores if such stores existed in Ontario. Oh, but it gets worse. Eliminate the tax collection remittance, and the LCBO, a freaking liquor monopoly, actually lost $35 million for the 2002-03 fiscal year, forcing it to dip into retained earnings. Today, with even more liquor temples constructed and with an even bigger and more bloated overpaid bureaucracy, I'll bet you a 2-4 the numbers are even worse. So it is that by privatizing this entity, not only would that tax revenue still be there for the province, but just imagine the revenue the province would rake in if the LCBO sold off its highly valuable retail assets, some of which are on plots of real estate big enough to be redeveloped into condo towers. Privatizing the LCBO is a no-brainer. And throw in that other scandal-plagued monopoly too, will you? The Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation. After all, from an ideological point of view, the government's role when it comes to liquor and gambling is to regulate and tax these so-called sinful commodities. The government should not be in the business of actually selling scotch and scratch-off tickets. Number two, riddle me this. What do you call a $40 million a year thing that nobody watches? Answer, TVO, Ontario's very own TV network, which should be called TVY. Much like running booze stores and gambling casinos, does anyone think that a province, or for that matter a federal government, should be running its own TV network? Especially one that can't be bothered to sell ads because, well, it gets along just fine, thank you very much, by sucking from the taxpayer teat. TV Ontario was ill thought out back in 1970 when it was originally launched. But in this day and age of the internet and social media and cable cutters, it is entirely irrelevant. Please, Premier Ford, time to take this dog that don't hunt behind the woodshed and, well, you know what you have to do. And my number three piece of advice for fiscal responsibility, how about getting more bang from the taxpayer buck by getting the bureaucracy to work a little harder? In other words, I'm suggesting the Doug Ford PCs steal an idea from the Bob Rae NDP. Hey folks, even a broken clock is correct twice a day. Which is to say, I'm advocating that Ford replicate those so-called Rae days. Back in 1993, the NDP government imposed a wage freeze and mandatory unpaid days of leave for civil servants. The public sector unions went berserk, of course, but guess what, folks? That strategy saved the province almost $2 billion in 1993 dollars. Better yet, if the socialist Ray government could do this, it should be a no-brainer for a Ford conservative government to do likewise. And the de rigueur toxic PR that would undoubtedly follow, i.e. all that right-wing hidden agenda crapola, well, sorry comrades, it just wouldn't stick. So there you go, Doug. 6 figures of free consulting advice for you. You're welcome. For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, the Rebel has a new app. Please download that app and take the Rebel with you wherever you go.